Hello, so welcome to week 9 of the Ray of Hope crochet along, and this week we're back to the triangle rays, and this week's has the basket stitch as our feature for this one. Okay, so we're going to be making this one with a 3.5mm hook, and we start with a foundation chain of 22. So as always, our turning chain counts as our first stitch. And in the 4th chain from our hook we're going to make a double crochet. Okay, we always start these triangle rays the same. It's always a foundation of 22, then double crochet in each chain across the first row to get a stitch count of 20. So you'll have 19 double crochet plus your turning chain to get our 20 stitches. So the basket stitch it's a different stitch to the basket weave. If you've seen that one, it looks like a woven thing. This has quite a different look, which you'll see in a minute. It's a completely different stitch, and we make it using spike stitches. Okay, so I'm just double crocheting each chain down, and then when we get to row 2 we're going to start with our alternate turning chain 2 together. So just so we can decrease down to 18 stitches in the next row. Okay, so this basket weave stitch is a really pretty stitch, and it would be really a good stitch for baskets actually, as the name suggests. It's just a really nice one. Almost at the end. And there we go, last one. So including that turning chain we've got 20 stitches in our first row. Okay, so we turn, and I'm going to decrease by making the alternate turning chain 2 together. So there is a link in the description so you can see how to do this. Why have I dropped a stitch? I should have 3 stitches there. What went on? Let's try that again. Into there, then yarn over and into there. I think I forgot the yarn over. Right, so there's our first stitch of the row. And then we double crochet in each stitch across until we've got 2 stitches left, and then we'll decrease again over those last 2 stitches using the double crochet 2 together. Okay, so at the end of row 2 you'll have 18 stitches. I'll just get to the end here. Last one, and we'll now do the double crochet 2 together. So through the 2 loops, yarn over into the top of the turning chain, go, and through 3 loops. So we decrease down to 18 stitches. So row 3, we chain 1, make the alternate turning chain in the first stitch. Just mark that as our first stitch. Go, Right, so we're going to make a double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1, and in the same stitch as our last double crochet we're going to make another double crochet. Right, and now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So skip the next 2, and in the next stitch we're going to double crochet, chain 1, and into the same stitch make another double crochet. Okay, so we end up with a V-stitch essentially. Okay. Now we're going to skip 2, and same again, double crochet, chain 1, and in the same stitch double crochet. Skip 2 stitches, and again all in the same stitch, double crochet, chain 1 and double crochet. Okay, 1, 2. Yep, and then last one, skip 2 stitches, all in the same stitch, double crochet, chain 1 and double crochet. And now we're going to double crochet in the last 3 stitches. Okay, so no skipping stitches here, just straight into the next double crochet, into the next stitch, and re-double crochet. Okay. Okay, so onto row 4. So we turn, chain 1, and I'm going to make the alternate turning chain in the first stitch. Okay, so now we need to start our basket stitches. Okay, we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. And then going to skip your first V, and we're going to work into the skip stitches in row 2. So in between your V here, we're going to work our first stitches in here. Okay, so you're going to go around the back, and you're going to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. So it's a double crochet spike stitch, chain 1, and then in the second skip stitch you're going to do the same. So yarn over, hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up to the height of the double crochet you've already made, and then just finish as a normal double crochet so it's nice and tall. Okay. Then we're going to skip the next V-stitch and go to the next set of skip stitches. I'm going to do exactly the same. So pull up to height of your other stitches and finish as a normal double crochet. Chain 1, into the second skip stitch, pull up that nice loop nice and tall, and finish as a double crochet. Okay, and again in the next set of skip stitches, pull up a nice long loop, double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, into the next skip stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and just finish as a double crochet. So now we've got 2 skip stitches left. We do exactly the same. Yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, chain 1, and last double crochet spike stitch in that last skip stitch. Oopsie. There we go. Okay, and then yarn over, and you're going to double crochet in the last 3 stitches. So ignore your V-stitch and go straight to these 3 double crochet. There we go. And to the top of there. Okay, so these spike stitches are your basket stitch. Okay, so the next row, turn, chain 1, and make the alternate turning chain in your first stitch. And double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Okay, so now we're going to be working into those V stitches that we skipped before. So yarn over and into that chain space or that V stitch down there. Okay, so that's in row 3. Insert your hook, pull up a loop, and finish as a double crochet. So it's exactly the same. It's a spike double crochet, we're just working into that chain space 2 rows below, and do the same again into the same chain space. Yarn over, go to the next chain space, which is between the spike stitches we did in the row below, into that chain space, pull up a double crochet loop and finish. Chain 1. So between your pairs of spike stitches you always chain 1. Into the chain space, pull up your loop and finish as a double crochet. Then we're going to our next chain space, which is between our next 2 sets of double crochet spikes. So double crochet spike, chain 1, and into the same chain space make another double crochet spike, and again into the next chain space make double crochet spike, chain 1, and into the same chain space another double crochet spike. And we have one more chain space here, and do exactly the same. So chain 1 and second spike. There you go. And then you're going to double crochet in the last 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Okay, so in row 4 you had 4 sets of spikes, in row 5 you have 5 sets of spikes. Okay, so row 6. Turn, chain 1, and we need to decrease on this row. So make the alternate turning chain 2 together over your first 2 stitches. Okay, so in the chain space 2 rows below, so that's after your first set of spikes in row 5, we're going to this row, this chain space here. So we're working into the chain 1 space between the spikes. Okay, so we're always working into those chain spaces 2 rows below, so it's here. Okay, so double crochet spike, chain 1, into the same chain space, double crochet spike, into the next chain space, pull up that loop nice and high, chain 1 and spike. There you go. So next chain space, spike, chain 1, back into the same chain space and spike. You see how that nice pattern is starting to develop now. Okay, so one more set of spikes for this row. So the rows at this point are alternating between 4 and 5 sets of spike stitches. And pull up a loop. Okay, so we're going to double crochet in that next stitch. So we're skipping this set of spikes, we don't touch those. Going to double crochet into here, and then over the last 2 stitches you're going to double crochet 2 together. To complete our decrease for this row. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're going to turn, chain 1, make the alternate turning chain, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Okay, I'm going to carry on exactly as I did before. So working into the chain spaces 2 rows below. So our first one is here. That's before the set we worked in the last row. So into the middle there, double crochet spike stitch, chain 1, and back into the same chain space. Into the next set 2 rows below, double crochet spike, chain 1, into the same chain space, another double crochet spike. Same again, chain 1, and double crochet spike. Okay. Next one right in there. So there's 5 sets of spike stitches for this row. 2, and last one down here. Chain 1 and back into the same stitch. Oops, I lost something there. Let's try that again. Okay, and then you're going to double crochet into that last double crochet. That's coming out very nice. So rows 8 and 9 we carry on the same. So row 8 will have 4 sets of spike stitches. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 into them. And row 9 will have 9. No, row 9 will have 5, sorry. Make up numbers out of nowhere, so because you'll be working into these 5 here. So row 10 is another decrease row. So I'm going to carry on until we get to the end of row 9 and I shall see you back for row 10. Okay, so I finished row 9 and I got 5 sets of spike stitches in the row below and then 4 below that. So now we're going to do row 10, which is a decrease. Okay, so when you turn it and chain 1, I'm going to make the alternate turning chain 2 together. So then the second part is going to go into the top of the spike stitch. There. There we go. And we're going to double crochet into the chain space of that spike stitch as well. Okay, so now we're going to make a basket stitch into that chain space 2 rows below. So a double crochet spike, chain 1 into the same chain space, then double crochet spike again, and do that all the way across. Spike and then into the same space. And again. And one more. Okay, so we need to decrease down. So we're going to make a double crochet into the top of that spike stitch there. So that's the last spike stitch in the row 9. Just make a double crochet into there, and then double crochet 2 together over the last 2 stitches, and turn. So decrease done. Okay, so row 11, turn, chain 1 and make the alternate turning chain in the first stitch. So in this row, if we go from the pattern we've done before, we should have 5 sets of spike stitches. We're not in this row, we're going to have 4 because we made a double crochet into the chain space here. So we're not going to be using that chain space for a spike stitch. So we're going to be pretending that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so make your turning chain and double crochet in the next stitch. So in the chain space 2 rows below, make your spike stitch. Chain 1 and spike stitch as usual. And then carry on as normal in the next 3 chain spaces. That's number 1, number 2, and number 3. So we're going to ignore this chain space down here, and we're going to go to the last 2 stitches of the row. I'm going to double crochet in each of them. Okay, going to turn, and now the next 2 rows are going to be exactly the same as row 11. So rows 12 and 13, you're just going to repeat this row. You'll have 4 sets of spike stitches in each row. So I'm going to do that, and I shall come back when I get to the end of row 13, as row 13 will be our last row of basket stitch, and then we're going to go back to double crochets. So I shall see you in a moment. Okay, row 14, and we're going to go back to double crochet. So turn, chain 1 and make the alternate turning chain in the first stitch. Okay, and then pop your stitch marker in there. And double crochet in the next stitch. So we're going to double crochet in every stitch except the chain 1 spaces. So ignore the chains and just double crochet in the top of every spike stitch and your first and last 2 stitches of the row. Okay, and this will bring you out at 12 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 1, So this should actually be a decrease row, but just the way it works out is that this just gives us nicely 12 stitches, which is what we want to decrease down to for this row. So we've got a decrease row without actually decreasing. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. So now we're going to turn, and for rows 15, 16 and 17 we're going to double crochet in every stitch. Okay, so after that we'll be going back to the same pattern as the rest of the rays. So it's decrease row, 3 rows of double crochet in every row and decrease row. Okay, so your decrease rows for the rest of this ray are going to be rows 18, 32, 36. Nope, I've started to. Why did I start in there? I don't know. 18, 22, 26, 30, 34 and 38. Okay, so those are your decrease rows for the ray. Don't know where I got the other numbers from. That's what I get for trying to crochet and think at the same time. Anyways, so I'm going to carry on with this, and I shall see you when I get to the end of the ray. Okay, so I've completed the basket ray. So we've got this lovely basket stitch section, and gone all the way up, so all 39 rows. So then we need to add the slip stitch border. So you're going to go up to a 4mm hook, and you're going to make 2 slip stitches into the side of every row. Remember, when you get to that point, you're going to make 2 slip stitches into one side, 1 slip stitch into the other. So on these long sides, on one side you'll have 78 slip stitches, and the other side you'll have 77. And across that short edge you're going to slip stitch in every stitch, so you'll have 20 slip stitches down this bottom end. Then you can cut off, weave in your ends and join this onto your other pieces. So I hope you enjoy, and I shall see you next week for week 10. Bye for now.